Alright folks, so welcome. Thanks for checking out my video. This is your host ID Jester, and this episode here, I'm going to be introducing something to you that we're going to be doing here on my game channel. As many of you know and have been watching my game channel here recently, I've been doing a lot of baseball simulation and just trying different random games and also running a PC replay season of the 2016 Baltimore Orioles and also working on Inside Pitch, as you can see here, and playing some of the games from the 2015 season. And I've played opening day and April 7th and April 8th, and not getting very far along into it. So I was thinking today, man, I can't just sit by and just wait and just see, just play random games. Inside Pitch, great game. It just doesn't have any AI, so you can't just auto play other games. So you have to manually go in and play every game, and I don't have the time to do that. But I would like to do something with Inside Pitch Baseball that is fun and interesting. And playing random games is nice and everything, but I'd like to have something more organized. So what I decided to do was create a tournament for Inside Pitch Baseball with the 2015 season, and so that's what I'm going to be doing. Basically, I'm calling it the um, 2015 Baseball One and Done Playoffs. And so, what I'm going to do here is basically what I've done. Let me bring up here. Let's see if we can bring it up. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Hello. Sometime today. No, I didn't ask for that. Thank you. All right. So basically, what I decided to do was just take all the teams, all 30 of them, and say, what happens if we just put them all into a one and done scenario, and who would come out the champion? So this way, it gives me something to use the 2015 season without having to play the games over. Play what 2,000 games, which I don't have time to play 2,000 games, but it'll still make it fun and interesting, and maybe get a lot of people here involved in it. So here's what I ended up doing. I just decided that I was going to take all 30 teams and throw them into a bracket, and then we're going to have a one and done. And basically, the bracket's going to be set up with each of the teams going with their one win-loss percentage, and we're going to seed them from 1 to 30, and then we're going to put them into a bracket and have a playoff game for them. So St. Louis is the number one seed. They ended up with the best win-loss percentage in the league, .67. Pittsburgh's the number two seed, then followed by Chicago, Kansas City, Toronto, Dodgers, Mets, etc., blah, 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 all the way down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a massive tournament here with all the teams in it, and we're going to find out who's going to make it through the tournament all the way to the very end. And I'm going to be using Inside Pitch Baseball to simulate this, and I think it'll be a lot of fun and interesting. So let's bring up the bracket and show you the bracket. So I just went on, if I basically just went to Google and typed in something like set up your own bracket tournament or something like that. And this website ended up coming up, and so free to use, and it basically set up this awesome tournament format. I just put the information in and created all the different teams with their percentages, and then it just didn't randomly. It placed them just like it should, the number one seed, et cetera, into our little bracket. So let's take a look at the bracket because I think there's going to be some very, very interesting games here. So as you can see, this is a one and done. Again, here is just a breakdown of all the teams and their winning percentages through the season, and I basically just entered this into the format here. Now, because there's 30 teams, you can't get a fair bracket with that. So what it did was, sure, save that, thank you. Go away. Oh my God, my computer's running. Oh my gosh. All right, just save it then if you want to be a pain in the butt. There you go. All right, go away. Thank you. So what it ended up doing was creating the bracket. Because there's 30 teams, you can't have a bracket with 30 teams. So what it ended up doing was giving the number one seed St. Louis a bye and the number two seed Pittsburgh a bye. And you can see the breakdown of how everything's going to go. And then we're going to have the finals here. So here is going to be the seeding for this tournament. So obviously the number one seed St. Louis has got a bye. They're going to be in the top bracket. And we're going to call this basically the North Division here. And we'll call this division down here, we'll call them the South Division. Yep, pretty original there, I know. But that way, when we're talking about the North bracket and the South bracket, people know what I'm talking about. So in the North bracket, facing off is the number 16 seed Baltimore Orioles and the number 17 seed, which is the Tampa Bay Rays. Baltimore had a .500 winning percentage. Tampa Bay had a .494 winning percentage. So the winner of that game will take on the number one seed St. Louis Cardinals. In the North bracket, game number 2 here will be the 8th seed, the Texas Rangers, with a .543 winning percentage. They're going to be taking on the 25th seed Milwaukee Brewers, who had a .420 winning percentage. So Texas, Milwaukee. Now the winner of that game will take on the winner of the next game, which is the number 9 seed New York Yankees with a .537 winning percentage. And they will be faced off against the Miami Marlins, which had a .438 winning percentage, and they're the 24 seed. So the winner of these two games will face off here. In game number 4, we have the 4 seed, the Kansas City Royals, with a .586 winning percentage. They're going to be going up against the Cincinnati Reds with a .395 winning percentage. They are the 29th seed. In game number 5, we have the 13 seed Minnesota Twins with a .512 winning percentage against the 20 seed Seattle Mariners with a .469. In game number 6, we have the number 5 seed, the Toronto Blue Jays, with a .574 winning percentage. They're going to take on the Atlanta Braves, which is the 28th seed, with a winning percentage of .414. In game number 7, the San Francisco Giants, the 12th seed, with a winning percentage of .518, are going to take on the Chicago White Sox with a winning percentage of .469. So one of those 15 teams, one of those 15 teams will end up winning the North bracket, and they're going to face off the winner of the South bracket here. Let's take a look at the South bracket. Of course, Pittsburgh is the number 2 seed in the league with a winning percentage of .605. So they get a bye in the first round. They're going to be paying the winner of game number 8 in the South region, which is the 15 seed Cleveland Indians with a winning percentage of .503. They're going to take on the 18 seed Arizona Diamondbacks with a .488 winning percentage. The winner of that game obviously will take on the Pittsburgh Pirates, the number 2 seed. Then we have game number 9, which faces off against the number 7 seed New York Mets with a winning percentage of .556. And they'll be facing off against the 26th seed Colorado Rockies with a winning percentage of .420. Game number 10 is a interesting matchup here, as we have the number 10 Houston Astros with a winning percentage of .531 taking on the 23rd seed San Diego Padres with a winning percentage of .457. Game number 11 in the South region here has the number 3 Chicago Cubs with a winning percentage of 599, taking on the very last place Philadelphia Phillies, the 30 seed, with a 389 average. Game number 12 pits two perennial powerhouse teams right off in the first round. The 14 seed was Washington Nationals with a winning percentage of 512 are going to take on the 19th seed Boston Red Sox with the 481 winning percentage. Game number 13 will face off against the number 6 LA Dodgers with the 586 winning percentage against the 27th seed Oakland A's with a 420 average. And finally, game number 14 has the 11 seed LA Anaheim Angels with a 525 winning percentage, and they're going to face off right off the bat against the Detroit Tigers, the 22nd seed with the 460 winning percentage. So, winner obviously will advance in the bracket, and those teams will then face off against one another. So there's basically going to be 29 games to determine the winner, and I think that's going to give us, it's going to give me an opportunity to use the inside the pitch and actually put meaningful games out there, not just having to try to replay every single, every single game of the season. And I think there's some really, really interesting matchups. The first thing that really kind of I like this bracket. I really do, and it, like I said, I just took my number one seed and my all the way down to seed 30, and it put them in the proper spots. The first thing, obviously, for the 2015 World Series was the Kansas City Royals, which ends up being in the 4th seed, and they faced off against the New York Mets, which ended up being the number 7 seed. And fortunately for us, they were in different brackets, so we could end up with the actual World Series if the Mets and Kansas City end up winning throughout their bracket. We could recreate it. But in a one and done tournament, anything can and will happen. Anything can and will happen in a one and done tournament. So the way I'm going to be playing it, obviously, is with the inside the pitch baseball. The rules I'm basically using are I'm going to be using a 40-man roster. So we're going to have extra players that are going to be on the bench and available. And any pitcher that plays in or pitches 2 innings or more is going to be unavailable for the next game. So it's going to be a little bookwork for me to keep track of what pitchers and how many innings and everything like that. But we'll do that. I think that's fair. Obviously, we don't want the number one pitcher pitching every time for every team. I don't think that's fair. I think you got to show some depth and everything. So yeah. So I think any pitcher that pitches at least 2 innings is going to be unavailable for the next game. And obviously that's going to include all the starters. I'm not sure about relievers yet. I'm kind of tempted to just let the relievers come back in, especially on it's only going to be basically a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 game tournament. So I mean, in a 5-game World Series, so relievers come in. So I know the starters, we're going to have them sit out at least 1 game. I'm thinking about making them sit out 2 games, but probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And normally, if you pitch a 7-game series, you have your number 1 starter pitch the 1, 4, and 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe starters can only pitch the first game, and then they have to sit out 2 games. And then maybe we'll just let the relievers, as long as they don't pitch more than 2 innings, we'll just put that on there. Because, if they're in there for 3 or 4 innings, then they're going to be wore out. So. And then I'm going to be just setting up the lineups for each team based upon the player that played the position the most during the regular season. So, for Baltimore, third baseman, Manny Machado, or, whoever. And then we'll set up their lineups there. We'll get their number one starting pitchers, and then we'll simulate each and every game. I think there's some very cool matchups that are potential matchups that are going to happen right off the bat. Number one, as we talked about, I think this Washington Boston is a killer matchup, and whoever wins this game is more than likely going to be facing off against the Chicago Cubs. So this is kind of a brutal section here for Washington and Boston to go on to the Elite Eight, as they would like to say, right? So I find that really interesting. We could also have a Toronto and San Francisco matchup in the next round here. I think that would be an uh, awesome matchup as well. Uh, yeah, I think there's a lot of really interesting, cool games. And like I said, in a one and done tournament, you get one hot pitcher comes in, you get a few unlucky rolls or whatever, boom, you're done, you're out, and that's it. So I think this will be really cool, really interesting, and I'm going to be working on getting things set up. So if you guys have any thoughts or comments about anything, let me know. As we, if you're looking at, you know, which games are going to be the most interesting, or which bracket's the easiest or toughest, or who do you think is in a really good position to go far in it? Texas plays Milwaukee, and then they play the winner of the New York and Miami, matchup. So is that an easy bracket compared to what Washington and Boston have to face off against one another, and then they have to face off against Chicago? So yeah, let me know in the comments section if you have any recommendations and thoughts or whatever. I'll be running both teams, obviously, because there's no AI in Inside Pitch. And basically, I'll be using, because I don't want to make any bad calls. Um, Whenever the strategy roles come up in Inside Pitch, whenever the strategy roles come up, that's when I will do the strategy. And that's kind of the way the game is meant to be. Uh, so I'll do the strategies whenever the strategy roll comes up, whether it's a hit and run or pickoff attempt or whatever, because I don't want to be responsible for those calls go against one team or another. So I'm going to always do whatever the computer rolls. If you're fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to have those events come up at the wrong time, then that's just the way baseball is, and we're just gonna, you're just gonna have to live with that. But I don't want to have to call pinch and run, hit and runs and bunts and all that stuff, and then have people upset that their team didn't win because I called something. So I'm just gonna set it up whatever the computer simulates, and whatever the strategy roll comes up, that's what it's gonna come up to, and that's what we're gonna use. So the format for this is going to be we're going to start here in the North Division, game number one. So we're going to play game number one in the North, and then we're going to come down here and play game number 8, and we're going to just go back and forth from the top to the bottom. So we'll play 1, 8, 2, 9, 3, 10, 4, 11, 5, 12, 6, 13, and then 7, 14 to determine our next round. And so that'll be what 14 games. Then we'll have our next round, and then we'll just probably do the same thing. Probably the top one here, and then the top one here, back and forth, and all the way through. And again, this is a one and done tournament. Your team, even if they're lowly rated, 26 seed Colorado Rockies, get hot at the right time, get a few lucky rolls or whatever, you guys could advance. The other thing I'm looking for you guys is, you know, um, if you see any major upsets that you think might happen, obviously post them now, because posting them afterwards and saying, "Oh yeah, I thought the number 30 Philadelphia Phillies was going to beat the number 3 Chicago Cubs." If once the game's played and then you post that, it's not going to be as good to call that unless you do that ahead of time. So yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It'll give us some meaningful games with inside pitch. It'll allow us to get some players going. And again, if you are a bet man, who would you bet on to go through in the North, and who would you bet to go through in the South? And which bracket, North or South, do you think is easier or tougher? Looking for your guys' comments. And if you have a pitching matchup you think should happen, if you think a certain pitcher should start, even though maybe he wasn't the number one pitcher, I'll take that into consideration when I make the lineups for the games. Probably a lot of the playoff games, like the teams that actually made the playoffs, will be really easy for me to set up because I'll basically just look at their lineup from, the first playoff game and go from there. Teams that didn't make the playoffs, obviously it's going to be a little tougher to set these up, but I'll try to make up the best lineup. I'll look through, the last, like their main hitters, and then set it up that way. Figure that out. So again, pitchers, whatever pitcher starts the game, um, won't be able to pitch 2 more games, and then they can come back in. So basically, anybody that pitches in the first game won't be able to come back until the final 4. Fortunately for Pittsburgh and St. Louis, they do have a slight advantage in that their number one pitchers can come back, assuming they make it to the finals. They could come back and pitch in the finals. So again, assuming they make it that far. But again, with a one and done tournament, and you just never know who's going to win. So I think this will be interesting and fun. And hopefully you guys will enjoy this, get into it, and really, kind of take the reins with it and have some fun with one another and make a lot of comments and suggestions and posts and all that. And hopefully we'll get some good action out of Inside Pitch here with 2015 edition. All right, guys. Well, I'll leave you off with that. Game number 1 coming up, and this is the 16 seed Baltimore Orioles, the right at 500 win-loss percentage, and they're going to be taking on the Tampa Bay Rays, the 17 seed. Oh yes, one last thing. Whoever is whatever team has the highest winning percentage will be the home team. So in this case, we'll take, for example, the number 3 game here, New York Yankees and the Miami Marlins. So the Yankees have a higher winning percentage, so the game will be played in Yankee Stadium. And with that said, then the American League rules will happen if we're playing in American League Stadium. And in the National League, like, for example, this matchup, the Mets versus Colorado. No, that's not a good matchup. Let's see if I can find one, actually, for the National League here that has... Oh, here we go. The number 7. So we have the San Francisco Giants, and they'll be the home team against the Chicago White Sox. And that way the National League rules will be in effect for that game. So whoever has the highest winning percentage, it goes for every round. So assuming St. Louis keeps winning, they'll be the home team throughout until they, get upset. It'll be a game, and we'll be using National League rules. And like I said, relief pitchers, I think as long as they start and play 2 innings or less, 2 complete innings or less, they can come in the next game. If they pitch more than 2 innings, then we'll have to pull them out, and they won't be able to pitch just the next game. So that'll be a little bit extra bookwork for me, and I'll probably just keep it on my WordPad there and post that every time we get to the next game, so that we know when Baltimore takes on St. Louis who's available and who's not available. So All right, I guess that's it. I hope that's all the rules I wanted to cover and talk to you guys about. I really think this is cool. I think there's some totally cool matchups, and I foresee a lot of upsets with these lower seeds doing some damage here and knocking off some playoff teams. So just to refresh everyone's memory, if we're looking at the playoffs, uh, wild card game for the National League was the Cubs and the Pirates, and the wild card game for the American League was the Astros and the Yankees. And then in the division series, it was the Mets and the Dodgers, and the Cubs and the Cardinals. The Cubs ended up beating Pittsburgh, and so the Cubs took on St. Louis, and the Mets took on the Dodgers. In the American League, it was the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Texas Rangers, who and the Kansas City took on Houston. Houston won their wild card game against the Yankees, and then of course it was the Mets and Chicago with the Mets winning, and then the Royals versus Toronto with the Royals winning, and then of course it was the Royals and the Mets playing, where Kansas City beat the Mets in 2015. Just in case you needed a little refresher for that. So remember who the playoff teams are back in 2015. This was 2 seasons ago already, and we're on to the start of a new season coming up. So look forward to playing this with you guys. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy this, and I look forward to having some very exciting games for you guys. And we'll see you in game number one, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, coming up next. Thanks for watching.